Chapter 31, Duke's Lie. With his oven mitts open clasped together, Biz danced around squealing, "A box! Get a box! This thing is hot!" There was a clumsy scramble with Stump digging through the driftwood and Jim Dandy checking inside buckets. "The carpet!" Biz shouted. "We put them inside the carpet!" Stump unrolled the carpet and found 3 jewelry boxes wrapped inside it. One made of mirrors, one of seashells, and one of dark wood with a ballerina figure on top. Grabbing the mirror box, Stump popped its lid and held it with his eyes closed. Biz threw his catch inside and clicked the lid shut, then grabbed the box and yelled, "Quick, the ukulele!" The jewelry box was rattling so fiercely that Biz was shaking from head to toe. Jim Dandy ran for the ukulele and handed it off to Stump. It sounds like a really intense situation. Who took a deep breath to calm himself before he started softly strumming. At first, with Biz thumping around on the sand, you could barely hear Stump, but he kept at it in a low, surprisingly gentle voice, singing a lullaby. The waters rippling sweetly, the river snoring deeply, the fish are deftly strumming, the willows softly humming. And then he sang in a deep, deep voice, "Now that the little trolls are all in bed." And he went on, "The candle's burning real low, the west wind is your pillow, the snakes are all done scheming, the lilies are all dreaming, now that the little trolls are in bed. The tadpoles quiet down, the catfish swim to sleep town, the night is gently drumming, the sand snail is soon coming, now that all the little trolls are in bed." The lullaby may have been for baby trolls, but it slew the shooting stars too, settling down the joy box in Biz's hand. The shooting star in the fishbowl quit beating around and lay at the bottom of the bowl, a pulse of light as faint as a day-glow band-aid. I began to nod off myself. What do you think she means, nod off? They've all quieted down, so I think nod off means fall asleep. The only one not slowed by the lullaby was Jim Dandy. Lifting the bucket off the fishbowl, he slid his hand over the top and whispered to Duke, "Go get the jewelry box." But Duke's eyes had been lowering with everyone else's. When Jim Dandy repeated himself, I fought off the nods and picked up the second jewelry box, one of them with the ballerina on top. As soon as I flipped open the lid, Jim Dandy turned the fishbowl upside down and shook the star into it. "Close it!" The instant I clicked the lid shut, I knew I'd done something terribly wrong. Inside the jewelry box, the star came to life, dinging about so fast that it made the ballerina twirl. The vibrations rattled my teeth. It was a musical jewelry box, so it played a tune to the same lullaby that Stump has sung. Gradually, the ballerina atop the box slowed to a stop. The song faded. The star went back to sleep. I set the box on the sand and stepped away from it, ashamed. By then, everyone else had woken up and was wild with excitement, so I guess Stump put everybody to sleep, not just the stars. "I think that's 2, Jim Dandy crowed. "Almost 3. They went back to sniffing up stars again, faster than ever, for the night was wearing thin and the dawn was on its way. Duke and I were told to fill the mine shafts while they searched. "Biz is planning on turning you to stone," I warned my cousin as I shoveled. "Oh, I'm sure," Duke sniped in a snit because I helped Jim Dandy with the musical box. I guess he wanted to, but he couldn't wake himself up. "Stump says we shouldn't go anywhere near this Bo, the great rock troll." As if he'd know. "And Jim Dandy can't wait to drop you off the wagon wheel bridge." "I'm shaking in my booties," Duke fake gasped. So much for troll advice. Doesn't seem like Duke cares or believes her. "At least we won't have school tomorrow," I said, wanting to say something at least he could disagree with. Tomorrow was Monday, but it didn't look like we'd be reading any books. "I suppose you'll miss the kids you pick on." "That bunch of ninnies? I bet you miss them," I insisted. "I even think that deep down you miss your parents too." "No way," Duke growled. "I've never had it so good." He got quiet after that, so I should have figured that he was scheming. Stump's toy poodle started yipping at the far end of the sandbar, and Duke tore off to see what they found. It took me fewer than 10 steps to catch up with him, and 2 more to race past him. As I pulled even, Duke stumbled and fell flat. I kept on going. At the time, I didn't even wonder about Duke's clumsiness, but later on I thought about it plenty, for all it good it did me. I'd never known my cousin to lose his balance when trying to be first in line. "It's fate!" Jim Dandy was shouting when I found him. His nose funnels were pressed to the ground. They went straight to work. Since this star was closer to the river, the sand they shoveled soon turned wet and heavy. Their mood grew dark as the wire mesh of the second screen door sagged and then gave out, but then went on digging. The mesh of the third screen was sagging badly when Biz finally squeaked, "We got heat!" Another few bucketfuls and the color came, the sand flashing purple and white, smelling more like burnt cheese than the first. "With that," Jim Dandy said, inhaling. "Must be an old-timer." "Fishbowl!" Stump yelled, still digging. I started to reach for the fishbowl, but Duke tripped me and got it himself. As you might expect, his nose suffered for that stunt, but he handed the fishbowl down to the ladder just in time for Stump. So if his nose nose suffered for that, what do you think that means? I think it means it grew, because he just tripped her. The ladder just in time for Stump to scoop up their third star. It pinged around inside the fishbowl more sluggishly than the first two, and then they had no trouble dropping it in the seashell jewelry box. That done, they howled at a rising crescent moon that was as thin as a fingernail clipping, orange as a pumpkin, headed for pie. They beat their chests like monkey men and slapped one another on the backs as if there'd never been a crossword between them. Okay, so it sounds like they're celebrating, right? "What I tell you," Jim Dandy cheered. "What I tell you." "Make way," Biz squeaked haughtily. "Bow down." "You see," Stump shouted into the darkness, as if he'd proven himself to the universe. Through all the celebrating, Duke stood off to the side, shuffling his feet and looking worried. When Stump unexpectedly tried to dance with him, my cousin yanked his arm free and announced, "I'm afraid I've got some bad news, boys." His imitation of Jim Dandy's smoothness wasn't all that smooth. The trolls didn't hear him at first, so Duke had to raise his voice to a half shout. My cousin let one of your stars go." The dancing stopped. The hooting died. My breathing, blinking, and thinking came to a halt with everything else. "Am I hearing you right?" Jim Dandy said, looking kind of sick. "I'm afraid so," Duke answered. "She would have let the others one go too if I hadn't stopped her." So now I knew why Duke had stumbled and fell when we'd been racing to the third star. He wanted his friends to be one star short so they'd have to offer food to Bo. He planned on being the one to carry all that food, and best of all, from Duke's view, he figured out a way to pin it all on me. All of a sudden, the three trolls were making hard, raspy sounds in their throats, and the green torches were making their eyes glow. "She said she felt sorry for them," Duke told them. "This is all your fault," Biz squeaked grimly at Jim Dandy. "You're the one wanting these two along." "Hold on now," Jim Dandy said, scrambling. "You boys knew we'd have some troubles along the way. All the songs said we would." "You're not wiggling out of this one," Biz squeaked. "So what are you going to do about it?" "Do? Why, I don't plan on doing anything, except make these two pay for our losses." "Now wait a minute," Duke squawked. "She's the one that let the star out." "Wasn't me," I piped. "It was him." Not knowing which of us to believe, they tied us both up with vines. Looks like Duke's plan backfired on him. Chapter 32. 3 Bags and a Gnome. We spent the day at the wet bottom of a 20-foot mine shaft. Sunlight may not turn a river troll to stone, but it does make them cross and all itchy. To block out the sun, they unrolled the orange shag carpet across the mouth of the shaft and sprinkled sand over it for camouflage. The last troll down stuck his hand out from beneath the carpet and tossed sand over the remaining corner. The trolls tied up their alligator bags to the ladder, maybe halfway down the shaft. Stump left his bag unzipped, allowing a faint green glow to seep out. "Helps me sleep," Stump mumbled without being asked. We lay nestled like spoons, Duke at one end of the line and me at the other, our hands and feet still tied. If they could have tied my nose, I wouldn't have minded. So who's going to talk to Bodacious? Biz Grumble squeaked in the greenish dark. I could, Duke volunteered. Nobody paid him any mind except to laugh, but at least his offer broke the tension. Now, Biz, Jim Dandy reasons, if you talk royalty to royalty with old Bo, we should be fine. All you have to do is tell her it's a package deal. 2 stars and 1 meal for 3 crickets. No, better not call it a meal. Better call it a banquet. Now that's a steal. Oh no, Biz protested. You tell her. I might forget something. She'll take it better from an equal, Jim Dandy predicted. Name-calling followed until Stump played peacemaker, saying, How about a taste of those willow cats? That, at least, was something they could agree about. So they chowed down without offering us anything to eat, then dropped off to sleep, one by one. Determined to show he was one of the gang, Duke conked out with him. They snored worse than broken trombones. But even if Jim Dandy, Biz, Stump, and Duke had been quiet sleepers, I still wouldn't have been able to nod off, not with everything I had swirling around inside my head. After a while, all my tossing and turning woke up Stump, who was right behind me. If I untie you, he whispered in my ear, will you stop thrashing? I'll try. As soon as Stump undid the knots holding my wrists and ankles together, I got busy pretending to snore. In no time at all, the trow's paw slipped off my shoulder, and he went back to talking in his sleep. Not me, Duckwad. Not me, Duckwad. I crept up the ladder, wanting to peek in the troll's alligator baths. It seemed like a likely place to stash a stone feather and a glove, so she's still trying to turn her grandpa and everybody back from the stone. Inside Stump's bag there wasn't much of anything but his toy poodle, asleep in his cage, a sack of doggy treats, a snapshot of the chunky troll wearing a stick hat with the water lily on top, his wife, I assumed. There were also a family picture that showed Stump, a motherly troll in a patched apron, and another troll who must have been the missing brother, the one turned into a human. I studied the brother's face a minute, unable to shake the notion I'd seen him somewhere before. How could that be? I had no idea. He was an ugly brute with a leech sucking the tip of his snout, flies hovering above his ears, and river weeds stuck between his teeth. Still, there was something about his eyes. That's when it hit me. Duckwad's eyes gazed in the camera the same way my eyes looked in the bathroom mirror whenever I was studying myself. Exactly. It seemed as though he was looking for someone he'd lost. In shock, I sort of forgot to breathe for a minute or two, and growing dizzy, I nearly fell off the ladder. This could have explained same things, like why my best friends weren't sisters but turtles and toads and beetles. The thought that I might be Stump's missing brother circled around inside my head without actually landing and making a lot of noise. To scare the thought away, I moved into the next bag feeling numb and shaky. Oh my goodness, that was a surprise. The green glow inside Jim Dandy's bag showed me a bottle of Ruby Knapspress Amazing Mouthwash, a tuba Delaware Wyndham Slicks Back Hair Wax, Tutu Mudnose's underarm defoliant, a folding chair that said Director on its back, a grumpy mole, several copies of Hollywood Glamour, and the magazine read by stars, but no stone feather or glove. On to Biz's bag, which had a funny hum coming from inside. Put an ear to it, I heard faint singing that stopped as soon as I touched the zipper. When I opened the bag, I found the gnome guarding its contents. He was barely larger than my hand and held a pitchfork the size of a fork, though sharper. I could tell he was a gnome by his pointed hat and full-length beard. Moon glasses protected him from the green glow filling the bag. "Hark!" the gnome said in a small, fierce voice. "Who goes there?" "A friend of Biz's," I whispered back, saying the first thing that popped in my mouth. "Did Mr. High and Mighty send me my wages?" the gnome demanded. "I'm afraid not," I said with a small yelp. Biz's crown ring had given my middle finger a little nip. "He sent me after the stone feather." "Now isn't that just like him?" the gnome griped. "How's that so?" "He took the feather out of here and never brought it back. That's how so. He's just like every other moss bottom I've done business with. Too important to keep track of little things. Leave that to the hired help. I have half a mind to quit on him. Now clear out of here before I make jelly out of you. You're letting all my stale air out." And he jabbed me with his pitchfork. He'd have drawn blood if I hadn't been quick, zipping the bag shut from the inside Uh-oh, I'm running out of time. Just a moment.